So, what if the most important part of your 1 hour strategy meeting is actually the 90 seconds before anyone even shares their screen?
Oh, yeah. That is the true test right there.
Right. Because we usually think of work interactions as having this like strict script, like you have an agenda, a slide deck, you have a defined role.
Exactly.
But the moment you log on to a virtual call, like 2 minutes early,
Yeah.
or you find yourself waiting for the elevator with a department head, it's like that script just vanishes.
It totally vanishes. You are suddenly dropped into this landscape of just unscripted
Yeah.
vulnerability. It's completely unstructured. And I mean, for a lot of professionals, that is a terrifying place to be. We tend to treat those margins of the workday as awkward filler that we just have to survive until the real work begins.
Okay, let's unpack this because
Please.
that brings us to our mission today. We are doing a deep dive into the science of small talk.
Yes.
And we've gathered all these sources ranging from corporate communication training and language academies to expert blogs from different corners of the globe,
Yeah.
including some really fascinating materials from Russia.
Oh, the Russian sources are incredible.
Yeah, they really are. And the consensus across all these sources is that this unscripted banter is actually where relationship equity is built. So if you're someone who like actively dreads logging into a meeting early because you might have to make small talk with your boss, we are going to look at actionable frameworks today to navigate this without the panic.
I love that. Let's focus on that term you used, relationship equity,
Hmm.
because it really helps to understand the mechanism of why small talk matters. I think we tend to view modern work as purely transactional. Like I do a task, you review it, we move on.
Right, very robotic.
Exactly. But micro interactions, like a quick chat in the coffee queue or a brief check-in before a Zoom call, they act as deposits in a trust bank.
Oh, trust big. I like that.
Yeah, because when a crisis hits or when a project goes entirely off the rails, you are going to need to make a massive withdrawal from that trust bank.
Right.
And if you haven't built any relationship equity through those unstructured moments, the collaboration just becomes incredibly brittle when the stakes are high.
So it's essentially the social lubrication that prevents the gears from
Mhm.
grinding when things get stressful.
Precisely.
But I mean, before we figure out how to actually initiate this conversation, the sources make it really clear we have to understand the operating environment. Like the rules of small talk are not universal.
Well, not at all.
They change drastically depending on where you are in the world. It's like a smartphone's default operating system. We assume our social default code is universal, but it's highly localized.
That is such a good analogy. And assuming your own cultural default is universal is the first major trap.
Yeah.
Because what functions as a polite, friendly gesture in one country can literally trigger suspicion or confusion in another.
A perfect example of this is the contrast between American and Russian cultural norms.
Hmm.
The Polyglotist Language Academy materials break this down brilliantly.
I do.
So in the U.S., if you pass a stranger in the hall and you smile, or you ask, how are you? That is just a basic social signal of harmlessness.
Right.
It just translates to like, I acknowledge you, I'm friendly, we're good.
Yes. In American culture, politeness is inexplicably linked to making the other person feel comfortable and at ease immediately.
Mhm.
But the Russian sources reveal a completely different psychological baseline. In Russia, a smile must have a specific, justifiable reason.
Wow.
There is even a common Russian proverb that translates roughly to laughter without reason is the sign of a fool.
Laughter without reason is the sign of a fool. That is incredibly direct.
It is, but it's important to understand the why behind it. It is not that Russian culture is devoid of humor or warmth. I mean, Russian humor is actually notoriously sharp and rich,
Right, right.
but emotion is treated as something earned, not something broadcasted indiscriminately. If you smile brightly at a stranger on the Moscow metro, their brain doesn't register friendly.
What does it register?
Their brain registers an anomaly. They might wonder if you know a joke they don't, if they have something on their face, or if you're just simply unhinged.
Oh, man. That fundamentally changes how you approach basic office interactions.
It really does.
And the differences extend to directness, too,
Yeah.
especially when discussing work. Like, American corporate culture loves the feedback sandwich.
Oh, yes, the classic feedback sandwich.
You start with praise, deliver the crushing criticism, and then end on a high note. Like, I loved your presentation energy. The data analysis was completely flawed and unusable, but the font choices were fantastic.
Which is so funny.
Yeah.
But that softening is a deeply ingrained American habit. It's designed to protect the ego.
Yeah.
But to a Russian colleague, Wrapping criticism in forced enthusiasm feels fundamentally dishonest.
Oh, I see.
Because in Russian culture, respect is tethered to telling the objective truth, especially to people you work closely with. Directness isn't a sign of rudeness, it's a signal that they respect you enough not to waste your time with pleasant fictions.
That makes a lot of sense. And Aaron Meyer's culture map framework actually illustrates this dynamic perfectly through this metaphor of peach versus coconut cultures.
I love this concept.
Yeah, so Americans are described as peaches.
Hmm.
We're very soft and friendly on the outside, like we'll gladly tell a stranger in line for coffee our entire life story.
Oh yeah, totally guilty of that.
Right. But there is a hard, impenetrable pit in the center containing our actual private selves, and we fiercely protect it.
Exactly. And Russians, conversely, are coconuts.
Okay.
The outer shell is hard, formal, and seemingly unapproachable. They don't smile at strangers, but once you invest the time to crack that shell and earn their trust, they are incredibly open, deeply personal, and just fiercely loyal. The Russian concept of a friend implies a profound level of mutual obligation that goes miles and miles beyond an American Facebook friend.
I get that. The coconut versus peach distinction is really helpful. But honestly,
Yeah.
if I'm an American peach working on a highly diverse international team, and I have to constantly adjust my baseline personality for every single person based on their cultural profile, I'm going to be exhausted before the meeting even starts. Like, is the expectation really that we memorize a cultural rule book for every single interaction?
No, absolutely not. That level of constant recalibration would just lead to burnout.
Okay, good.
The Talera training materials offer a much more sustainable solution, and that is mirroring.
Mirroring, okay.
You don't need an encyclopedic knowledge of global norms. You just need to be an active observer of the person in front of you.
So how does that look in practice?
It's about matching their frequency. If a colleague keeps their pre-meeting banter strictly tethered to professional topics, you know the timeline, the software update, you match that boundary. But if another colleague starts asking deeply personal questions about your family or your housing situation, which might feel kind of invasive to an American but totally natural to a Russian, you recognize that as an invitation.
Okay.
They are opening the door to their coconut interior. You can reciprocate at that deeper level without feeling like you're violating professional norms because they set the baseline.
Okay, so you're basically letting them define the boundaries of the playing field,
Right.
and then you just step onto it.
Exactly.
That takes the pressure off, for sure.
Yeah.
But okay, let's play this out. Let's say I've successfully mirrored my colleague.
Okay.
I know I'm dealing with a coconut. I'm on the Zoom call. There are 3 minutes until the meeting starts. And my mind goes completely, utterly blank.
The classic freeze.
Literally. I do
Yeah.
not know what words to say next to fill the silence.
Right. Well, this is the exact moment where cultural theory has to give way to structural mechanics. When you freeze up, it's a symptom of cognitive overload.
And several of our sources, Talera, keynote speaker Rahul Kohli, Aventis, Zay.media, and an online class platform, they all address this specific paralysis.
They do.
They all advocate for using a rigid structure to get through the initial panic. The most prominent one is the EASE framework: environment, ask, share, exit.
What's fascinating here is how these frameworks reduce the cognitive load. Think of EASE as an algorithm you run in the background. It outsources the heavy lifting of conversation design so your brain can actually focus on the person.
Oh, like that.
Yeah. So the first step, environment, is about anchoring the conversation in a shared reality.
But not the weather, right? I mean, the weather is a dead end.
The weather is the absolute lowest form of shared reality because it rarely leads anywhere.
Yeah, it's like, wow, it's raining. Yep, sure is. And then silence.
Exactly. A better environmental anchor relies on something specific to the immediate context. If you're on video, it might be, hey, the lighting in your office is great. Is that a new setup? Or if you're at a conference in person, it's, have you navigated the maze to find the coffee station yet?
Right.
Proves you're present in the same moment they are.
Okay, so from there you move to the A, which is ask. You ask an open-ended question tied to that shared environment.
Mm-hmm.
But Rahul Kohli offers a brilliant tweak here that completely changes the trajectory of this step. He points out that if you ask, how was your weekend, you are almost guaranteeing a one-word answer.
Oh, absolutely. Fine. Good.
Busy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because how was your weekend is a habitual script. People don't even process it as a genuine inquiry. They process it as a verbal handshake.
Right.
But Kohli suggests changing one word. You ask, what was the most interesting part of your weekend?
I love that tweak. Because you force a hard stop.
Right. Yeah, you can't answer the most interesting part with fine.
Exactly. You are forcing their brain out of its habitual response pattern. They have to actually search their memory for a specific detail, which immediately elevates the conversation from autopilot to active engagement.
Which naturally leads to the S, right?
Yeah.
Share.
Yes.
Once they give you that detail, you offer a brief personal detail in return. Like if they mention reading a great sci-fi book, you mentioned a sci-fi movie you just saw, this step is crucial because without it, you aren't having a conversation, you're conducting an interrogation.
Right, you're just grilling them.
Exactly. The sharing makes it reciprocal.
And then you arrive at the E, the exit, which is a forward-looking statement to wrap it up, which we'll dissect in detail later.
Okay.
But I want to pause on why this framework is so vital, particularly for introverts and non-native speakers.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
The sources emphasize that small talk is exhausting because you're juggling too many tasks at once. You're analyzing body language, you're monitoring your own posture, digging through your memory for a relevant topic, and trying to sound relaxed.
Right, and if you're communicating in a second language, you're also translating vocabulary and grammar in real time.
Exactly.
The Russian source, Online Class, actually highlights how debilitating accent insecurity can be in these unscripted moments. Like non-native speakers often feel like small talk is a pop quiz on their language proficiency.
Which is so stressful. But the advice they give is incredibly empowering. They suggest reframing an accent not as a skill flaw, but as a marker of identity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The goal of small talk isn't to dazzle someone with complex Shakespearean vocabulary. The goal is connection.
Right.
Using simple, highly clear language to run through the ease framework is far more effective than stumbling over complex idioms trying to sound native.
That is such a relief to hear.
Yeah.
And Z.Media also suggests a physiological hack for this anxiety. They say to consciously imagine you're speaking to a close friend. It sounds a bit cheesy, I know, but it apparently tricks your nervous system into lowering your cortisol levels.
Wow.
Yeah, and that immediately changes your vocal tone and your body language.
That makes total sense.
But wait, let me push back on the ease framework for a second.
Sure.
If I'm mentally chanting environment,
Yep.
ask, share, exit while someone is talking to me, doesn't that make me sound like a conversational robot?
It feels robotic when you're first practicing it, much like learning to drive a manual transmission.
Okay.
You know, you're hyper-aware of the clutch and the gears, but the paradox of structure is that it actually creates freedom.
How so?
When you don't have to panic about how you're going to open or close the interaction, your cognitive load plummets. You can use that freed up brain power to do the most critical part of small talk, which is actually listening to the words coming out of their mouth.
Oh, I see. It reminds me of the golden rule of improvisational comedy. Yes, and.
Yes.
You don't just stare at the metaphorical brick someone hands you and panic. Active listening is like catching a pass in basketball. You can't just stare at the ball hitting you in the face. You have to catch it, pivot, and do something with it.
That is a perfect analogy for active listening. Once you throw the conversational ball using ease and they answer, you cannot just nod and say, cool.
Right.
That is a dead end that instantly kills the momentum.
So, to keep the yes and going, the platform Smalltalk Master outlines a 3-part listening lip.
Okay.
Step 1, catch the point. Step 2, name one detail. Step 3, ask or share from there. This proves to the other person's brain that they've been truly heard rather than just politely tolerated.
The mechanism here is validation. Let's say your colleague tells you, I'm trying to get back into running, but the mornings are brutal right now.
Okay.
If you just say, yeah, running is hard, you've acknowledged the topic, but you completely missed the emotion.
But following the loop, you'd catch a detail and say, the morning part is what would defeat me. Starting a new physical habit is one thing, but doing it while your brain is still booting up is a totally different challenge.
Exactly. And notice the restraint in that response.
What do you mean?
You didn't immediately try to solve their problem. You didn't suggest waking up at 4 a.m. or recommend a specific brand of running shoes.
Right.
You just held up a mirror to the specific friction they were experiencing. Smalltalk Master also emphasizes keeping an ear out for the odd details.
Okay.
If someone mentions in passing that their dog has strong opinions on their new couch, you stop the conversation right there and ask about the dog's interior design preferences.
I love that. You pull the thread on the anomaly, it shows you're highly engaged. But while we're pulling threads, the sources are very clear that there are some threads that will unravel your professional reputation instantly. The danger zones.
Oh, yes. Every source, from study.com to the Russian management portal uprav.ru, unanimously agrees on the big 3 taboos: politics, religion, and office gossip.
Well, politics and religion are obvious landmines. But let's look at the mechanics of why gossip is so destructive. Because it might feel like you're building a bond with someone by sharing a juicy secret about a third colleague.
It does feel like that.
But in reality, what is happening in the listener's brain?
Well, in the moment, they might lean in and enjoy the tea. But subconsciously, their brain registers a massive red flag.
Oh.
The logic is simple. If you are willing to break confidentiality and speak poorly about someone else to them, you will absolutely do the same thing about them to someone else.
Wow.
The trust is permanently compromised even if they smile and nod along.
That is so true. The Russian source, uprav.ru, goes even deeper into behavioral taboos that can quietly destroy relationship equity. One major warning is against bragging about expensive purchases.
This comes down to awareness of the subtle hierarchies and financial disparities within any company.
Right.
Casually discussing your new luxury vehicle or a wildly expensive tech setup can instantly breed resentment. It creates a wedge of alienation between you and colleagues who might be navigating completely different financial realities.
Yeah, they also strongly advise against debating parenting practices.
Oh, absolutely.
Which feels like universal wisdom. Like no one has ever won an ideological debate about how to raise a toddler in the 3 minutes before a budget review.
Never.
But the most revealing section of uprav.ru's material is their list of the 5 forbidden phrases. 2 of them really highlight the psychology of workplace trust. First, they say to never utter the phrase, "It's not my responsibility."
Because it signals a fundamental lack of systemic thinking.
Okay.
Even if a task genuinely falls outside your purview, stating it that bluntly makes you sound like a silo, not a team member.
So what do you say instead?
You reframe it to maintain boundaries while showing alliance. You say, I can help point you to the right database, but if I take on this analysis, the Q3 report will be delayed.
That's good.
You're still saying no, but you are negotiating from a place of collaboration.
Okay, so the second forbidden phrase is fascinating because it actually contradicts a lot of modern advice. They say you must never leave a conversation at a dead end.
Right.
But wait, isn't saying I don't know actually a sign of honesty and vulnerability? Like we hear so much about how admitting ignorance is a sign of a secure leader. Why is I don't know suddenly on the forbidden list?
Vulnerability is essential, yes. But you have to think about what happens in the listener's brain when you drop a definitive I don't know in a professional setting.
Okay.
It triggers a micropanic. The momentum of the problem solving stops entirely, and suddenly they're the ones holding the bag. It threatens their psychological safety because it signals you are abandoning the issue.
Oh, so it's not the admission of ignorance that's the problem, it's the lack of a follow-up.
Precisely. In a professional setting, vulnerability must always be paired with an action-oriented path forward. You replace the dead end with, I don't have that exact number in front of me, but let's check how we modeled this in the last quarter.
Right.
Or, I don't know, let me find the project lead who owns that data. You are completely honest about your knowledge gap, but you preserve your identity as an active problem solver.
Okay, so if we trace our steps, we have navigated a lot of hazards. You've adapted to whether your colleague is a culturally protective coconut or a friendly peach. You've bypassed the cognitive overload of starting the chat by running the EASE framework. You've used the yes and loop to prove you're actively listening. And you've successfully avoided gossiping, bragging about a sports car, or dropping a dead end. I don't know.
You've successfully generated real relationship equity.
But there is one final boss to defeat.
Yes, there is.
How do you actually get away? Because nothing evaporates all that hard-earned goodwill faster than a fumbling, awkward, drawn-out goodbye where neither of you knows how to hang up the Zoom call.
Oh, it's the worst. The exit is where many people panic, but it's an art form with very clear rules. If we connect this to the bigger picture, a clean exit ensures you're remembered as respectful and sharp, which is critical for long-term networking.
Right.
And the career platform Case Basics provides a highly structured methodology for closing an interaction cleanly. It has to be decisive, but it cannot be abrupt.
Okay, so what's the first step?
The first step they outline is time awareness. You literally verbalize the constraint. You say, I want to be mindful of your time, or I know we have the all-hands meeting starting in 2 minutes.
Okay.
It acts as the universal auditory signal that the conversational landing gear has been deployed.
It frames the exit as an act of respect for their schedule rather than a desire to just flee.
Exactly. But you don't just announce the time and run. You follow it immediately with the single takeaway.
Ah, the single takeaway.
Yeah.
This is where you prove the last 5 minutes weren't a waste of breath.
Yes.
You briefly reference one highly specific thing they said, like Thank you for sharing your perspective on the client migration. That actually gave me a lot of clarity on how we should approach the timeline.
It is the ultimate validation. And then comes the golden rule from Case Basics, which cannot be violated. Do not introduce a new question during the closing stage,
Wait, why is a new question fatal at this point?
because it causes cognitive whiplash. The other person's brain has already registered the exit cues and has begun powering down the conversational engine to transition to the next task. If you throw in, oh, by the way, what did you think of the new software update? You force their brain to abruptly boot back up.
Right, right.
It creates friction and leaves them feeling trapped rather than respected.
That makes perfect sense. A clean exit locks in the equity.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to ask the practical question here.
Okay.
What do you do if you initiate the perfect exit strategy, you deploy the landing gear, you state the time constraint, you give the takeaway, and they just keep talking?
It absolutely happens, particularly with individuals who lack conversational awareness. When verbal cues fail, you must escalate to physical cues while maintaining a polite tone.
Like what?
You firmly reiterate your appreciation. You say, I really do appreciate your insights today, but you pair it with undeniable physical signals of departure. You close your notebook and pack up your pen. You shift your shoulders and feet toward the door.
Or if you're on a call.
If you are on video, you physically move your hand to the mouse and hover over the Leave Meeting button.
You are essentially enforcing the boundary they fail to recognize.
Yes, you are demonstrating that you respect their time and the demands of the workday, even if they temporarily lost track of it themselves. It is a firm professional closure.
We have covered incredible ground today.
Yeah.
We've decoded the silent rules of international small talk, recognizing that not everyone views a smile or direct feedback the same way. We learned that relying on a structure like the EASE framework isn't robotic. It's a strategic way to lower our cognitive load so we can truly listen.
We explored the mechanics of the three-part listening loop, the deep psychological reasons why certain phrases destroy trust, and the exact formula for a graceful exit.
All of this is the invisible architecture of relationship equity. So what does this all mean? It brings me to a final thought for everyone navigating the modern workplace. We spend massive amounts of time and money optimizing our hard skills.
Oh, yeah.
Getting certifications in data analysis, coding, project management.
Those are the skills that historically guaranteed career advancement.
But as artificial intelligence and automation become increasingly capable of executing those task-based hard skills faster and better than we can, it forces a massive shift in what makes a human employee valuable. If an AI can write the code and analyze the spreadsheet, it leaves us with a really provocative question.
What is that?
Will the messy, unscripted, highly nuanced human art of small talk and relationship building become the single most critical job security skill of the 21st century?
It is entirely possible that the ability to navigate the unstructured margins of work will be the one thing a machine cannot replicate.
The script of the traditional workday is being thrown out. The professionals who know how to improvise, build trust, and connect in those unscripted moments are the ones who will ultimately thrive. We will leave you to mull over that thought in your own interactions until our next deep dive.